Hello and welcome to a Talmud Israeli production. Today we'll review the highlights of this week's course of Daf Yomi study, Masechet BavaKamma, pages 101 to 107. 101, Kuf Aleph. Amar Rava, Hana Hanira Le'einaim Asra Torah. When it comes to the rule of Orla, which is the fruit of the tree in its first 3 years of existence, which the Torah prohibits, it's any kind of benefit that is noticeable, visible. The Tanya, as we learned in a Braita, Arelim lo yachel, the Torah says you shall not eat the arelim, emi ala isra achila. I would only know that there's a prohibition of putting it in your mouth and eating it. Minayin shelo yenu mimenu. How do you know I can't have any benefit whatsoever of any variety from this orla? V'liyitzba bo, I can't use it to dye, pigmentation, use it for coloration. V'liyidlok bo saner, and I can't use it as fuel to light a fire, to light a candle. Talmud Lomar, the Torah says, the expression of the Torah includes the Rabot et Kulam, all these forms of benefit. So Orla is Asur Bahana'a, prohibited to have any benefit. 102. If you buy a field from your friend, B'Shem Reish Galuta, in the name of the exilarch, the Reish Galuta, the head of the Jewish community of the diaspora. So here, you're using someone else's name to try to preempt any other potential buyers and get for yourself a field. And the theory is, you'll buy it in the name of the Reish Galuta, who will in turn sell it to you. Well, ein kofino to Reish Galuta limkor. There's nothing that forces the Reish Galuta to then go ahead and sell the land to the person who bought it on his behalf. He could keep it for himself, which would leave this buyer in the lurch. He acted, but it didn't work to his benefit. However, if the original sale was done al menat, on condition that the named buyer, the Reish Galuta, will in turn hand it over to it in a subsequent sale, the man who's acting as the buyer, then the Reish Galuta would have an obligation to, in fact, hand over the property to the buyer who did it in his name. 103. What happens if you steal more than a pruta's worth from your fellow? Vinishba, and then you swear falsely that you didn't do it. But then you have pangs of guilt. You gotta repent. You gotta chase after this person who you stole from all the way to Media, to Persia, to a far-flung province. We're gonna force you to chase down your victim in order to give him back the money. You shouldn't give it to the guy's son, to the guy's agent. There's no shortcuts. However, there is one shortcut that's permissible. You can give it to an emissary of the court. And the emissary of the court will then function as the delivery man to give it to the victim. So the point of this halacha is, if you're a thief and you're a dishonest thief and you swear falsely, we force you to go out of your way in trying to do the right thing. 104. Milva al peh enogovelum neyoshilum el kuchlos. If there is a loan which exists only by word of mouth, but is not backed up by any form of documentation, then the creditor is unable to collect from heirs of the original debtor, and certainly not from the kuchot, from buyers of real estate property that belong to the debtor, because there was no lien on the various properties of the debtor, since the lien only is a product of a signed contract, a witnessed contract. And since such a thing didn't exist in this case, it was all by word of mouth, no such shiabud exists, and therefore no possibility to collect from these outsiders. 105. Boy Rava. Rava asked an interesting question. Gazal shte agudot bepruta. What happens if you stole two bundles of something, say bundles of apples, and together the two bundles are worth a pruta, but each one is only worth about half? And then you went ahead and did the right thing, but partially, and returned one of the bundles. So, mi'amrinan hashtaleka gazela, do we say, well, there's no longer an outstanding theft of at least a pruta's worth, which is the bare minimum value that is legally recognized, and so maybe it's over, you don't have to give anything back, anything further. Or maybe we say, no, there was a theft, it amounted to such and such an amount, and you didn't return it all yet, so therefore you have a burden upon you to give back something more. Hadar Pashta, after asking the question, he then answered his own question. Gezela ein kan, hashava ein kan. There is no more theft here. The act of theft is over because it's less than a pruta. And hashava ein kan, but there was no act of returning. So the Gemara says, Gezela ein kan, hashava yesh kan. Well, if there is no gezela left, it must mean that hashava yeshkan, that there was an act of returning. So hachi ka'amar, afal pi shegezela ein kan, even though there's no longer any outstanding theft because it's below the threshold, mitzvah hashava ein kan. You have not yet fulfilled the mitzvah of hashava, and so you still have a responsibility if you want to do the positive mitzvah to return the remainder of the stolen item. So, in other words, on the negative side of the ledger, the gezela is over. However, on the positive side of things, doing the right thing, you have not fulfilled your task just yet. You've only gone partially, finished the job, do the hashava. 106. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Hatoan Tanas Ganav Ba'aveda. Let's say a person found a lost article and then claims it was stolen from him before he returned it to the original owner. To make careful, if it turned out that this guy himself stole the article, that he found it and then claimed there was a thief involved, but he was the thief, then he's going to pay double. He's going to pay the penalty. My time, or why? It says in Torah, I'll call it Avedah Sheyomar. Regarding any lost item which you say, and he said there was a thief. Turns out he was the thief. Kefil, double payment. 107. Aton Tanas Ganav B'Pikadon. What happens if you were a custodian and you claimed it was stolen, but really you were the thief? Eino Chayev. So there isn't not going to be a liability for kefil for double payment ad yishlach boyad until such time as this custodian extends his hand on the article to misappropriate it in some way. So until he actually does something to the article, it doesn't matter that it was in his possession because it was legitimately in his possession because he was a custodian. How do we know this is true? The Amar Kra, because the Torah says, "V'nikrav balabais elokim," that the master, the owner, approaches the court. If he did not extend his hand against the property of his fellow, which would mean if he extended his hand, he is liable. Everyone have a great week.